embodies this evolution. As the Director of High Performance at Invictus Performance Lab, Mr. Shetty brings a remarkable depth of experience in using sports science, technology, and data analysis to elevate athletic performance. Over the past decade, he has led a multidisciplinary team of strength and conditioning coaches, sports scientists, physiotherapists, nutritionists, and psychologists, working across sports like cricket, football, tennis, swimming, weightlifting, volleyball, and even tactical training for elite forces such as the Indian Army and the National Security Guard. Mr. Shetty has worked with some of India's top athletes, including Olympic medalists, elite cricketers, and para-athletes, among them Mithali Raj, Ishant Sharma, Rinku Hooda, and Satish Shivalingam. His evidence-based approach and unwavering commitment has been instrumental in supporting success at the Commonwealth Games, Asian Para Games, Women's Premier League, and more. His work exemplifies the transformative power of science and data in modern sports, turning raw talent into consistent world-class performance. It's an absolute honor to welcome a visionary who has not only redefined high-performance training in India, but also become a leading advocate for the scientists and data-centric evolution of sports. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Varun Shetty as he shares his powerful insight on the use of data in sports science.
I request Mrs. Tanmay Damle to grace the stage and felicitate our speaker for today. Thank you so much, ma'am. We now begin with our interview session.
Good morning. So let's directly jump onto the questions which have been ready for you, Varun. First, how did you start your journey from engineering and you switched to train elite athletes and also general population clients? Like, what inspired you to come into human performance?
To be very honest, I think once I finished engineering, I did experiment with a couple of other fields. So I got into IT actually way before I got into this field. And my foray into IT and the engineering background and the way we look at health today was actually a good combination, because you're talking about the fundamentals of physics, systems development, inputs, processes, outputs, rapid iteration, which is something that is taught fundamentally in engineering and which is what we apply even today. From an IT background, I would say it's about how do you get multiple disciplines to actually talk to each other and come to a common consensus. The other, I would say, commonality between IT and what we're doing today is the fact that you have to constantly be aware of what is the new technology that's coming there, but what is the new science, what are the practices, what are protocols, in which context are we trying to solve these problems. So post that is when I had finished IT and I was considering what to do next, and I realized IT was not my calling. And it was a very personal journey, because I think at that point, because of working, my health had suffered. So it started off with me being the focus of my studies. Eventually what happened, I started getting family, friends, and my foray into elite athletes became much later. In fact, I still feel the fundamentals of coaching, what you will learn better with non-athletic populations than with athletic populations. And by the time you come to athletic populations, your basics have to be really good. Your understanding of different sports, biomechanics have to be really sound. And I think the fallacy right now is everyone wants to start with elite athletes. Elite athletes are very restrictive with what you can do. So you need to have a high amount of precision. which is where data comes into play. But you cannot replace the human element of coaching, and that will always come first, and that should always come first. AI and technology have its role, but not without the human layer that sits on top of it.
How will you define performance in training? Like you're very closely working now with elite athletes, not only elite athletes, young kids, those who are just into their school, and recreational athletes. So, how will you define performance and development in training into that particular aspects?
So one is, I think we need to look at it as development in youth very different from the way you look at elite athletes. And we cannot take elite athletes, the system that we have for them, and apply it to youth. Right? So which is where the whole physical education actually comes in, which is a lot more explorative in the way it should be taught. It's more about allowing the kid to actually explore irrespective of whether we're talking performance or not, right? It's like you need to teach them the ABCs before they start forming words, then they start forming sentences, and then eventually they go to write poems and literature, which is typically what sport is. So the way we look at developmental kids is very explorative, but as we go along, when they come to 15, 16, then we start incrementally putting structure into it. We don't want to put structure very early, but at the right age, post-puberty, is when we start looking at some amount of structured training. And as they go along, we start putting more and more structure. At the elite athlete level, to be honest, our Indian sporting system is very unique in the way we function, and I think most developing countries as well are very unique in the fact that we do not have a structured sports system. There is no official calendar year that I think most organizations will eventually stick to. So the way we have to plan is plan for them because we know that it's going to change. So the way you periodize the concept, I think in India it's very different. I think it's more about agile periodization. You plan so that you can change from the plan. So data is what will allow us to be able to make those decisions on the fly. Right? Where AI will eventually come in, which I don't think we are there yet, is about taking multiple systems and multiple data sets and inputs, whether it is physiology data, whether it is wearable data, whether it is subjective data on wellness or RPEs. Take all those data and to be able to make decisions for a larger cohort in real time. Right? But that is the eventual goal. I think the Indian sports system has not reached that level yet, primarily because I think we're still figuring out what data to collect, how to collect it, what is the frequency in which we collect it, and what is the quality of data that's actually coming into the system. So tying it together is the next stage. The first layer is what is the data we collect and how do we collect it.
So the next question is the same. What is data in the context of performance training and why it is important? Now breaking down the question, what is performance to be very precise? Now you are saying performance. The word performance is used everywhere. Okay, we're gonna increase the performance, or for the general clients, or I'll increase your performance, I'll develop your performance. So what is performance in your context? Like how will you define performance, and what is the role of data in the context of performance training and why it is important?
I think performance, if you look at it from a health paradigm perspective, if you're looking at it as sickness being is one end of the cycle and performance is the other end, you have unhealthy, right? And then you move to healthy, and then you move to performance. All of us are somewhere along here. Hopefully, if you're sitting here, then we're not talking about sickness. But if you're unhealthy, then you move to healthy, and then you move to performance. So what is performance? Performance is health optimized, right? The next level of it's automatic. Once you start feeling better, you start talking about performance. And when I talk about performance, I think I don't talk only about elite athletes or athletes. I think each and every one of us, performance is something that we're looking from life, right? We want to get more from life, irrespective of what our goals are. For an athlete, it might be their pursuits in excellence in their particular sport. But I think each and every one of us have our own goals and pursuits that we will categorize as success for ourselves. So performance is, are you able to do everything that you want to do in the time? Are you healthy enough? Do you have enough energy for it? Are your concentration levels high? Are you able to do complex tasks at a high level? That's the definition of sport as well. But we have to relate it to our lifestyle.
And what is data in the context of performance training, and how data helps in performance training? And what are the tools which we can be used for collecting the data?
I think data is a double-edged sword, to be honest. Data is good. Too much data is just confusing. If you can figure out, I'm talking about figure out 4 or 5 parameters that directly correlate with your success. And if you start just by monitoring those 4 or 5 metrics, you will actually see a lot more change than trying to gather, 1,000 odd data points and trying to correlate it. The actionable data from data that you have is actually very few. Right? So it's about figuring out what is it that actually moves the needle in the direction that you want. In the context of sport, because that's the question here, so we ourselves gather around 500 data points per client per month. Right? But how many of those are actually actionable at any period of time is what we focus on. We collect all the data. So we've been doing that for the last, I would say, 4 years. Right? Currently, a lot of what we do is very dashboard and trend oriented. But what we're trying to work on the next stage is how do we take that data for unique data sets. What I mean by that is we do not have standardized of data in India. And frankly speaking, I don't think it's even possible. Primarily because even though we're all Indians, we're so different based on demographics, culture, geography, traditions. All of these factors play a role in your data. So the way we have to look at it is N of 1. Each individual is a unique data point, for the sake of the conversation. And how do we help that individual achieve performance in the context of their life? And this is the future of health, irrespective of whether it is sport or otherwise. It's about how do you talk about an N of 1. Right? So if I can understand my data and how it influences my lifestyle and the state that I want to be in for performance, that is what I'm interested in. And which is what all of us are interested in. How does it affect me, probably my wife, and definitely our children? Maybe not in that order, but you get the gist of it. And so that will eventually become what tradition will get passed down. My take on tradition is, traditions were made at a point in time where it gave you the highest possibility of survival, right? Which is why it kept passed on from generation to generation to generation. In today's context of tradition, everything has changed. Where we live has changed, the water we drink has changed, our lifestyle has changed. So if we are talking about tradition giving us the highest chance of survival, what are we passing on from this generation to the next generation? Why is there a rise of lifestyle related diseases? So is it still holding true, spirituality aside, but is it still holding true in today's context on giving us the best chance of survival or not is the question. And I think data will help us guide in making the right decision, because we have is it working or is it not working scenario. If it's not working, we should be able to track it and change things.
Do you think people who are working in this field are really using the data, or they're just collecting the data?
I don't think I'm in a position to comment on people
or just based on your experience. No, let's come up short.
To be honest, at least at Invictus, because when we started off, there was really no model that we started on. Right? The way we built every department was from scratch, from ground up. We wanted to know what worked, what didn't work. So one of the first things that we did, even before we bought equipment, was buy testing equipment. So before we bought all the traditional stuff, we decided to invest first on testing equipment, and that would be the guiding factor on how we will choose what we want to do next. Right? So that becomes what we measure is what we can manage. So today we have, I think, at least 20 or 30 different testing devices that we have. We've standardized it to a lesser number. But yeah, we use that as a guiding principle. Early on, what we learned was, initially when we started off, whatever was there in the books is what we would implement. And then once we started testing, we realized that it is, at best, it is a guiding light saying that it should behave in this scenario, but then most books uh, were written in a lab environment, whereas the human body is not a lab environment. The number of variables that you have that affect performance are massive, and the weightage of those variables will differ for each person. For example, someone's sleep might affect way more in terms of their performance versus someone sleep may not affect their performance at all. So understanding what is it that slows you down is where data comes in, gives you that feedback loop mechanism.
And how is the data helping you, not only you, the athletes, the coaches, the sports coaches, those are skill and tactical coaches, physical education teachers, those are very closely working with the young kids. And how is it helping you in programming those things, and how it will help uh, for the physical education teachers? And are you at a state of position where you are guiding the sports coaches, skill coaches, or helping them to manage their load or whatsoever, their technicality things?
So I'll start with the physical education layer. So we do run a program that is 7 onwards. We do have a bunch of assessments, but it's not very rigid in terms of it is a baseline assessment that we do once every quarter. Most of our assessments that we do in physical education are actually in every class, where we have one component of the class itself which is gamified, and there are embedded assessments that we have in the class itself. So, and there's a rating mechanisms for not only the physical locomotor abilities, but we're also talking about what are the life skills that they're learning and how they're using things that they've learned in the past to navigate or problem solve in that session. So the games are unstructured, but we're looking at those key points of development for the kids at different stages, that at later on we start tying it together and start making it a little more specific. But beginning we start very general. The assessments are guidelines on seeing how they're progressing, but we also do maturity assessments, biobanding, and all of those things, which allows us to make sure that the competition level is uniform. You don't have a kid who is matured very early and now he has a physical advantage, but because of that he or she will not train the skill side of it. So mix and matching that. That's why I said physical education is the foundation for the country. And I think from physical education, if we run a really good program, is what will build to later success. It is not, like, my personal belief that physical education will contribute far more to India's success in not only in sport and athletics, but as a society, than what us trying to perfect the elite athlete system. Right? If we have more kids who are physically capable, who understand their body, we have more kids participating in sport, we have more kids being confident and be able to handle difficult situations. Sport is an industry that actually just takes it a little bit further on the physical side. But are we able to contribute to the society as a whole? Physical education becomes the base. On the next level, what we're talking about is developmental athletes. There we start doing a little bit more, but we're still looking at fundamental patterns. We're looking at all the movement patterns. We're looking at how they jump, how they throw, what are the elements that are actually needed for a good general athlete. Still, we're not talking about getting into sports specific. Once we move to elite, then the metrics that we use are more sports oriented. For a fast bowler, it could be a speed gun. For a badminton player, it could be racket speed. But we're looking at, in that person's game, what do we want to improve? What do we want to maintain? What do we want to make sure that there is loads are being managed? Because that is a big thing in terms of how much you want to increase the loads by. But more importantly, are we looking at asymmetry? What are the causes of injury? Are we looking at a drop in their metrics of performance? What could be the reasons for it? So the elite layer, I think the first role is to make sure that they're always playing, right? Which is where data and testing comes into massively. Second is to make sure that they're getting recovery in time. In terms of performance, once they reach elite, the gains that you get are 5%, 2%. Right? So it's about making sure they're robust, resilient even before that. So the role of data changes at each stage. And then when you come to general population, again, the goal is performance, but you're looking at maintaining their health, and the variables that you look at is different from what you look at in elite athletes. Right? You're looking at more sleep data, hygiene data, you're looking at nutrition, you're looking at stress levels. So the data is common. How you use and interpret that data and for what purpose will change, will be context specific.
So it has to be purposeful, purpose-driven using of data.
Right now, what happens a lot is everyone's collecting data, but there's no purpose behind the data. How are we using that data? What are we trying to implement with that data? Data without purpose is just
A number.
it's just ones and zeros you're collecting for nothing.
Yeah. Let's deep dive into data collection for young athletes, as there are many physical education teachers. Do you think it is important to collect data for young athletes? A. And which devices do you need to use it, or just you need to have the eye? Okay, the movement pattern is good, I think he can progress. Or do you need to have some number? Okay, you're gonna mark him or you're gonna rate him. Okay, your movement pattern is good. So I'll give you 3, I'll give you 2. Let's talk about FMS, functional movement screening. That is the basic thing which we start with. So do you think it is important to collect data for school-going kids? Those who let's start from the age of 5, or let's start from the age of 7. Do you think it's important to collect data, and the purpose behind to collect the data by the physical education teachers? Now you have also seen there's a Khelo India app which is being used by the physical education teachers. How relevant it is? I just want you to put something in.
So I'm a big proponent of the fact that we need to start looking at physical education the way we look at all other subjects. Right? At the end of every semester, you do have a kind of a grading system that is there to know whether the kid is progressing, not progressing. If they're not progressing, what can we do to help? If they're progressing in one department, say running, they're progressing, but they're not able to balance, we need to be able to identify that. The idea also is that once you start putting some amount of grading, I wouldn't say we have to be over-reliant early on, especially on tech, because it's just not scalable. Also, the cost of tech makes it prohibitive. But if you look at what is actually needed at the ground level, you don't need too much apart from a couple of cones, you need stopwatches, you need a measuring tape. A lot can be done just with these 3 implements without having to spend on tech necessarily at that age. And fundamentally, I feel like at the physical education layer, while we should have a strong grading system to understand developmental milestones and how each kid can develop, but also how the curriculum can get better, I think it is imperative that you focus on your coaching, your one-on-one interactions with the kid, the philosophy of coaching as well. And those are elements that actually can define a kid's success far more than what tech would do at the face-to-face level. Like a good teacher, I think most of us will never forget someone who is a really good teacher, and they would be more responsible for us to fall in love with a particular subject than all the other things that we've done in that subject. So I think, as physical education teachers, it's very important that you are able to connect with the kid at a human level, but also keep an eye on, okay, what are they progressing? How can I look at it subjectively? What can I do to improve myself? It's a feedback loop for you as well to know whether what work you're doing is bearing fruit or not. Otherwise, we can all do this exact same thing and not know what is working and what is not working. So data at best at a physical education should be a guide, but I think the meat of the whole thing should be the one-on-one interaction that you get with the kid.
Okay.
Or a group.
Okay. And if you have data, or still you need to assess a young kid, okay, if he's progressing or not, and if he's progressing well and good, you're going with the perfect plan. But what if it's not working? And do you need to compare those things with any kind of data, or do you need to have a baseline which you are comparing with? And what key aspects should you consider? If you'll see if a young athlete will adapt very easily. If you give a new thing, he can learn very easily, and you can see there is an high rate of adaptability. But what if it doesn't happen? What aspects should we consider? Now, for example, if there is a young kid who is just 12 or 30, he's still not able to learn good landing mechanics. That's what we are going to start with. So, what aspects do you need to consider? Now, if there is any physical education class going on and you see there are 30 kids and it's very difficult to manage 30 kids and give cues to each and every kids. So, do you think data or AI, some kind of technology will help that one kid to learn?
Simply put, no. Simply put, no. One is there's no such thing as a perfect plan. If it's a perfect plan, it's going to fail, right? So you are making a plan that will allow you to adapt, and it's about that, right? So that's where the human layer comes. AI will never replace that because the decision making that is needed at the ground level to deal with the kids, AI cannot. Right? It is how you design the class, how do you make it explorative for the kid. Some kids will get it very early at night. Some kids will not get it even later. Some kids will get it and then they will hit puberty and then they will again have to restart the entire process. What is important is, are you equipping the kids to be able to pick up a skill, break down any skill, understand how to be coached? Then it's a process, right? Every kid will have different rates of development from an ability standpoint. It's the same way you look at all subjects. Some kids will be really good at biology, some kids not good at physics, and vice versa. And they will all have a natural inclination to different things. Our job is to make sure that the average is high, but also for the kids to identify what makes me unique compared to my peers. Okay? But as physical education, can we keep the average really high? They will start specializing as they start realizing, you know what, I'm really good at throwing. So what all sports are available to me? I'm really good at running. Do I want to do an individual sport or a team sport? Then what are my options? So build the base, allow them to explore and express themselves differently. And I think it's about being patient. Right? At some point, all the dots will connect for the kid, and at that time it is beautiful to see. But till then, it is a lot of just making sure it's fun, making sure they're exploring, making sure they're doing it together as individuals, taking the responsibility for their actions. Allow the process to play out.
You just used word specializing. What is early specialization and late specialization?
I think we also overcomplicate this whole debate a lot. There are some sports, the system itself wants you to start doing it early, like gymnastics. But I think if you take gymnastics as a sport, it's a fundamental for movement that goes across all sports. So there's really no harm in talking about gymnastics as early specialization because it is fundamental. Some sports, especially sports that are very unidirectional, like golf, cricket, there's only one pattern in a couple of planes that you're doing. It's better to do it a little later, right? If you want to play and there is transfer from, say, a sport like tennis to cricket, a sport like hockey to cricket. But they offer you a lot more in terms of learning about your body and your abilities than probably a sport like cricket will. Right? Cricket is very restrictive in the kind of movements that you do. So selecting what sports that you do early will help you understand your body better, your skill better, which will eventually transfer to whatever sport that you want to play. So start by being a very good generalist and leave the specialization for a lot later, except for sports like, say, swimming, gymnastics, of those sorts. But yeah, as much as possible, I would say introduce the kids to all the sports. There are certain things that physically you will have an advantage for, but other things tactically you might have an advantage for. We will not know who will have international success until 18, 19, 20, where you can see it. So anything before that is advantage is short-lived.
Okay, for physical education teachers, I must say it's a bit difficult from their part just to implement early specialization or late specialization just because
You don't need to.
because because kids they see many sports and they they choose their role model, and choosing their role model, and that's how they choose their sport. Okay, I'm going to play this sport. If they're a fan of Virat Kohli, they will choose cricket 100%, though it might be a boy or girl. They will be choosing cricket. But how will physical education teachers help them choose their best sport? Not now, not at a very early age, but by using the data to explain those data not to the kid but to the parent. Like, okay, you have got a good height. Your kid has a good height. He can do well in this kind of sports. How will the data help physical education teacher to explain not to the kids but to the parents? A. Second, it's all about psychology, right? Whether the kid wants to play or not, if he's interested in it or not, but how the physical education teacher will put up this thing.
So again, this is a personal opinion of mine. I feel like the biggest factor in deciding which sport a kid should play should always be the kid's choice. While you can look at certain advantages in certain sports when it comes to anthropometry, but also looking at whether they are hip dominant, knee dominant, and these are patterns that get established very early on. It's the way that China does that whole child identification, and they have a very strong system when it comes to physical education. The way they take people from different districts and then centralize them at a regional level, and then they move them to a center of excellence that is centralized. So you have the top 1% of the country across all the disciplines competing and living in the same space. So that itself is really powerful. But from a physical education standpoint, allow them to explore all sports, right? It's about taking elements of cricket and then making a game. It doesn't have to be cricket, but you can have striking, you can have throwing, you can have overhead throwing, underarm throwing. These are all elements, right? So allow the kid to dream to be a Virat or a Baichung Bhutia or any of the other elite athletes, but use the context that motivates them and use them to be part of a physical education curriculum, right? So because our goal is not necessarily about sport, it's about physical education, right? A strong physical education base will allow them to play multiple sports. Choosing which sport, because being an elite athlete is a very, very tough life, and is going to take that intrinsic motivation for them to do well in that sport. So choosing the sport, I personally believe, should always be the kid's choice, right? Predominantly, because that will allow them to go further. Otherwise, you'll have early burnout, they'll lose motivation, they'll be doing it for the wrong reasons. And that's not how you want a kid to get into any field. So that's, again, my personal opinion.
Okay, let's jump up to the next topic, that is AI's role in performance training. How will AI help us individual? If I am a strength and conditioning coach, you run a beautiful setup at Bangalore, how is it helping you? How will it help me? How will it help physical education teachers to use AI, and how the data can be interpreted in performance setting by using AI? And there's one more question which I'm going to add. Do you need to compare the data with any normative data which is standardized? Now, if you're seeing standardized data is mostly Western influenced, we don't have a good standardized data of India. So I just want you to put something on it.
Forgot the first question.
So it's much more like AI. How will
The role of
AI
data
help?
in performance.
Yeah, how
AI
will
in
it help
performance.
in performance?
So I think I covered this also earlier. It's about allowing us to. I think for one we need large number of data sets for AI to come into play. Otherwise, it does not serve the purpose. So how are we collecting the data? What data we're collecting? What all systems are we monitoring? If it's from an injury standpoint, what we are monitoring. From a physiology standpoint, what we are monitoring. From a performance standpoint, which is force or velocity, what are we monitoring? So all of that data, plus if you have wearable data, which almost, I think most of us are now using wearable data, it's how do you bring all that information together to have actionable decision. And this is not something that will be done by the athlete or non-athlete, because there's a lot of information. It's not possible for them to sit and study all of this, and it's not their purpose as well. So which is where I think all of us coming together, while data is good and a lot of data coming in, AI will allow us to help make decisions, but also give them actionables that they need to do in the context of their lives. Right? So that's where AI will come in, but very early stages, to be honest. If you all can build good data frameworks, right? It does not have to be expansive, but getting familiar with how to collect data, what are the standards, how do you even build dashboards, for example, it'll really help in establishing your credibility also. The fact that you're able to look at all this information and show people on things that have worked, not worked. There's a lot of learning just in that.
Okay. So where do you see, now let's again switch, the future of data driven training, which will be helping in future, as you're seeing there's a lot of tech coming into sports and a lot of tech coming in sports science. How is it going to help us, and how to use it, so that will, does it make a difference in future, uh, in the performance setting also, or in the normal fees what we are doing?
Yeah, so that's something that we are looking to solve as Invictus, because there is no standardization when it comes to tech. Also, there is no set protocols that most people follow in general, which means data is very unstructured and fragmented. So what we're currently doing is to build one single platform where anyone from any background in health can basically interact with it. You can upload your assessments, we will verify it, we will add the research papers for it. So it becomes like a semi-mentorship kind of model where you can discuss client cases with it. It's trained by us, but we're also using research papers that are there. The idea through all of that is also help standardize a lot of the data that is there in India. In India, we don't have standardization. We rely a lot on Western populations, which really doesn't apply in India. So we have to be able to create unique data sets for each region, and then maybe at an average level you can talk about India. But I think regional is the way to go in terms of collecting data. But yeah, there's too much. There's too much in terms of the amount you need to study and to be able to integrate all the different disciplines, because all disciplines ultimately talk to each other because it's just one human body. So everything matters. When everything matters, what all can one person actually end up studying? So unifying all of that at a knowledge layer is the first step. But again, using data and feedback to be able to improve the intelligence layer of AI is something that we are actually working on.
Okay, so it's much more of data. Let's ask some questions. If there's some questions coming up from the audience, we'll just attend to it. Yeah, please. You want to ask any kind of question related to physical? Yeah.
Right? So we know that we don't have the time for more than 35 to 40 minutes. Right? And in 35 to 40 minutes we have a challenge that the infrastructure cost. Kind of infrastructure is required. Another thing is tools, equipments. Area equipment should be there. After that, to merge the AI with this, highly important. The paperwork and technology friendly. Technology should be very friendly to use this technology within 35 to 40 minutes.
So, like I said, AI is not there yet, right? But the first stage would be, are we able to collect information that is standardized? And which is what I told you, right? The way we do physical education testing is a lot of embedded testing. If you have 45 minutes or 1 hour, you can't have a separate day only on testing. On one day, if you're testing, say, 20 meters dash, another day, as part of the session, you will have probably a long jump. Another day, you'll have a triple jump. But you'll repeat these tests periodically, and even if you're just doing one test in that one class, you'll have enough data over a period of 6 months to tell you how each kid has progressed and if they've not progressed. If you have a separate day for don't use tech. With kids using tech, I mean, although even we tried it, we're going to have a lot of tech and this, that. There's too much to manage with kids to start having to deal with tech at the same time unless you have surplus of manpower. So keep it very low tech, keep it very functional, keep it embedded testing. If you have the luxury of doing a comprehensive testing in a gamified format like quarterly, then that's great. But you doing it in 40 minutes in a standard class is tough. So I would say embedded testing is the way to go, and that's the way we do it. We monitor everything, we keep everything on an Excel sheet for now, and we have dashboards. So tomorrow if anybody comes and asks, okay, how's my kid progressed, we can show them everywhere they progressed on their jumping, on their balance, on their acceleration, deceleration. We actually put it as part of the whole curriculum itself. So the class design has the testing in it. And we're only looking at measuring one parameter in one class. So it is easier logistically.
Challenge for as for the sports allocation as well.
Yeah, but you can do it in 10 at a time also.
Yes. But it depends again when sir is saying that someone wants to be a cricketer, someone wants to.
No, but that's how you. Everybody, all kids will hopefully want to play one sport at least. Now it's about taking the class and saying, okay, how will doing this particular exercise, how will it translate to cricket? So it's about drawing that. Okay, fine. If I'm running and stopping, what is it in cricket? Am I talking about running between the wickets, change of direction? But building that context in the way of cricket. The number of skills that you have doesn't change across too many sports. Fundamental skills are the same. How they apply that skills is what sports will dictate. But those skills remain the same.
Thank you.
Yes. Anyone?
So can you please share your program that you have at Invictus Play? Because it was really interesting and intriguing to know about what you do regarding physical education of the kids. Because it's really interesting. And I would also request you to tell the future PE teachers how does it go ahead.
So I'll tell you how we've come across, and I think this is a discussion also we had yesterday with Ma'am. A lot of what we are doing at a young age is the whole explorative learning, where we have our movement pedagogy as well, which is something that I think you all also follow. But we're also trying to get a lot of the life skills into the class as well. Firm believer in the fact that it is always the person first that we want to focus on before they become an athlete. And they have to become an athlete before they become a sportsman. And that is the development that we're looking at. So the age of 7, that is how we start. Before that, we partner with another organization that does gymnastics and life skills. And then at the age of 7 is when we start teaching them, giving them the tools, individual tools, right? And then at the end of the class, we take those tools that we've given them, say jumping, throwing, or juggling, and we add that into a game. And the rules of the game are different every single time. So it is not a formalized game. We change the rules of the game based on the students that are there, on what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and we more often than not change the rules of the game in such that, say there is one kid who's very strong, but the other kid is not very strong. In one of the games, it will be at an advantage to the strong kid. But in the next game, it will be advantage of the kid that is not strong but is probably faster. And now the strong kid has to figure out how to play that game which is not to his strength. And another game, the weak kid has to figure out, okay, how do I tactically solve this problem where I'm not very strong and it's not playing to my strength. Right? This is one example. But we are constantly putting people in different scenarios using the locomotor skills and all the physical skills, but to develop the personality itself. Right? Because that is a core layer I feel that is actually missing in, it's going to be a controversial statement, but in today's education, because it's a very classroom oriented system. We are not giving kids enough of a chance to express themselves and experiment on what are the different aspects of my personality that I'm going to be strong at, what do I need to do to improve it, how do I deal with failure, how do I deal with success, how do I deal with my colleague, my peer's success. These are all elements that can be taught in physical education. But to get the same kind of exposure, otherwise, is very hard. So if we can create that scenario where the kids are comfortable enough to express themselves, physical education we're building the future of India basically through physical education. So for me, is one of the strongest, I think, and more underutilized fields for India, growth in India will be physical education, because the amount of impact it can have, I don't think any of the other disciplines can have on the kids as individuals, as teams, and how they can work together. If you can learn this skill, you can tackle pretty much every situation and every subject that is anywhere there, because all of this is built in. But we rely on our kids reaching there accidentally. Physical education is one place where you can curate the entire experience and show them, if you do this, you can get better, tangibly they can see themselves get better. It's not a letter. They can physically experience and feel how they get better, which is far more powerful than saying I'm a 99 percentile. So we have to build that story, that narrative for the kid, make them dream a little bit. But physical education is, I think, we have to do. I mean, we can add so much value, I feel, through physical education to individual kids' lives, and which is why y'all are the future of India, because y'all will be the ones. Each one of y'all will be able to affect maybe 100, 200 kids a year. So over your lifetime, think about number of kids that you'll be able to influence.
Yeah. Some more questions? Yeah.
My question mostly relates to children. The fact is, a child is in still his growing age. His bones are developing. His game is developing. He's naturally evolving. At that time, is it good to introduce technology and various wearables to them and make them dependent on it, or rather help them grow naturally? Sorry, just let me interrupt one more time. More of like, is it good to condition them from an early age that wearing these shoes will help you run nice? Or rather, you can build your game naturally, like running, for example. So shed some light on it, please, sir.
So, one is, they don't need any wearables, they don't need any tech, right off the bat, because I think more and more people are getting disconnected with their body. At the end of the day, all wearables are an algorithm written by a company. And it is not an exact science. And it cannot be an exact science at this point in time because of where sensor technology is. But also, I feel like it's an evolving science. I don't think any of us should be basically tied up to wearables and the kind of information that is giving it. In fact, most of the clients that I have who wear wearables, I tell them, don't look at the data. Give us the data. We will process the data and tell you what is actionable. Like, I don't want a kid to look at their watch and say, you know what, I am not fresh today. A watch or a wearable shouldn't dictate how you're feeling. Right? So it becomes more of a conditioning where we are conditioning the kid to the technology and not the other way around. A kid should be free. Like, if you feel like playing, go play. And if you feel like sleeping, sleep. It is about physical education and training is about connecting with your body. By adding a tech layer in beta, you're doing the exact opposite. In fact, none of my elite athletes look at their data. They're banned from looking at the data. On a match day, if they say the data says I'm not fresh, it starts playing with their mind. So is it positive, having a positive impact or negative impact? So wearables actually having more of a negative impact than a positive impact as a whole. Because people who have it also don't know what to do with it. So that becomes another reason for success or for stress. So data is good if you use it well. But more often than not, at least like where we are, we tell them, get the wearable, but I don't want you to look at it. We will tell you what's going on and how to go about it. And at the end of the month, if you want to come and sit, we will take you through all the data and tell you what are the action points we've done, because you need that justification. But on a daily basis, I feel it is live your life. Basically, like learn to read your body, learn to read the signs of your body. No piece of tech will give you better information than what your senses through evolution of 10,000 plus years that are there. It is far more advanced than what a tech will give you. Tech will give you, if anything, tech will help you figure out a few things directionally, but as a kid, I don't think it's necessary at all. Or as an adult, if you want to gamify health and that is your motivation and that is what will get you to improve, fair enough. I think that's a good enough motivation. But as a kid, your motivation is to have fun. Why to take that away by adding tech?
Explore as much as you can.
That's I feel like that's a fundamental aspect of play is exploration. Tech will take away from that play. Unless you're doing esports, which is a completely different topic. But yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
I have a question. One question. Sir, I have a son who is 12 years of age and he plays football. Whenever he comes home in the evening, he always asks me, Papa, Ronaldo or Messi? So he's asking me.
Messi. That's the right answer, sir. There's no other answer.
So my question to you is that, who is great, Ronaldo or Virat Kohli? Just explain me in 1 minute, sir.
How do you compare greatness?
Because I just want to know who is a good athlete. Yeah.
So that's the eternal question, no, sir? Who is successful?
Both are successful, no, sir?
No, but I'm not talking about only sport.
Yeah.
If you look at all other industries, who is successful? So Ronaldo is great, Messi also is great. Now it's a matter of perspective. Have both of them achieved everything there is to achieve in their particular sport? Yes. Okay, maybe except for the World Cup, but that's a different story. But except for that, but if you look at their contribution and what they were able to do, what they were able to bring, they've done everything in their own different ways, right?
Yeah.
Where Messi was talented, was always the underdog because of his size. Ronaldo was gifted but had to work on the other aspects of it. I think there are important lessons to learn from both. We should stop thinking about who is better, X or Y, and start looking at it, what can I learn from Messi, what can I learn from Ronaldo, because our learning is based on what they have done, not by choosing one or the other. We shouldn't be dogmatic saying that, we shouldn't make it like religion, Ronaldo or Messi. Everything we have an opportunity to learn from. What can I learn from, if your son, say okay fine, what do you like about Ronaldo, what can you learn from him? Okay, and just look at Messi, what do you like about Messi, what can you learn from him? So it's a learning experience. By making it black or white, we remove the learning experience completely out of it. It becomes more of a decision. And then we have to sit and argue. Whereas I think the fact that he's asking you means there's a great opportunity for him to learn something from both of them. Wouldn't you prefer him learning from two greats?
Yes.
So I would say add 2-3 more people in that question. So he'll learn more.
Indeed, the session was very informative. A heartfelt thank you to Mr. Varun Shetty and Mr. Rahul Yadav for making this interviewing session a grand success. This discussion beautifully highlighted the growing role of data in sports science, showcasing how analytics is revolutionizing, showcasing the training optimization. It was truly insightful to understand how data-driven decisions are shaping the future of sports and helping teams and individuals reach their peak potential. We are grateful for the valuable perspective shared and the engaging interaction, sir. It gives me honor to invite Professor Sharad Ahir, Mrs. Kulkarni, Dr. Ajit Kanitkar, Mr. Vinayak Pachlag, and Mr. Sunil Kalikar on the dais. May you please join us on the stage? Professor Sharad Ahir, Mrs. Kulkarni, Dr. Ajit Kanitkar, Mr. Vinayak Pachlag, and Mr. Sunil Kalikar.